And growing up in an environment that controlled who you are, where you go, things you believe and are comfortable saying out loud is not acceptable. There is no reason in the world that parents should make medical, residential, and life decisions, especially keeping somebody from getting a job that they need in their 20s because you're not sure they're ready is not your call to make. Once your child turns 18, you don't get to make choices for people. You don't get to decide what they have access to, what their decisions are, and what their punishments are. You are not their guardian anymore. It's not your business. Who they hang out with, where they go, who they date, their job, their religion, it's not your business unless they want to make it your business. But even then, stop telling your adult kids what to do. You cannot tell them when to go to bed. If your adult child knows what's expected of them, what the agreement is to live there, and your child is incapable or unwilling to be what they agreed to be upon living there, you give them 30 days. That's the only thing you do. You don't take away their tablet. You don't take away their TV privileges. You give them 30 days in writing. You're not supposed to be punishing them anymore. You're not their guardian. They're not accountable to you. Can you imagine a landlord punishing somebody with taking away something because you did something the lease doesn't allow? They'd just kick you out. Going through the legal expectations, of course. The things my parents did were utter ridiculous. You cannot say you love your child and control them at the same time. It doesn't work like that. And if somebody's 18 plus, you don't get to make decisions on their behalf anymore. You let them make the decisions they want to make. And at the end of the day, if their decisions you cannot deal with, it's not your life. Your adult daughter or son or whatever they identify as, they have to live with the consequences or blessings or hardships they choose. That's called being an adult, taking accountability, responsibility, and learning and having life experience. Choices aren't just about good choices. They're about learning what's good and what's not as good for you. If everyone did everything they were supposed to do and make the right choice every time, life would probably be very different. And my parents would not let me make decisions. And this is abusive, controlling, coercive. It's not okay. There is nothing that could justify sabotaging someone's employment searches. Waiting until they're 19 to teach them how to drive. And even at 21, when I had my driver's license, it took them 2 years to teach me. Who waits until they're 21 to get a license? I mean, there are people out there that don't need a license, that's fine, but not allowed to get one when you are 21? No parent has any legal or moral authority to tell an adult what to do. With consent, you can offer your opinion, your life experience, and hope that they make the right decision. But you cannot make decisions. You cannot forbid anyone 18 or older unless you live in a place where the age of majority is 19, 20, or 21. You can't tell a legal adult what to do. You shouldn't want to. It's theft of autonomy. You shouldn't want to do that. And if you do, you are a terrible parent. If you can't let your kids make their own decisions, you are an unfit parent. And I have seen parents who want to make decisions for their adult kids. Do you know what we call this? Psycho. Controlling your kids' lives is wrong. It doesn't matter what you want, what you think is right. It's their life. They make the choices, and they have to learn or accept what decision they make. Anything less, and it's creepy. You shouldn't want to control anyone's lives. You shouldn't even want to control your kids' lives. I mean, you have to protect them, you have to teach them. But no, you should not want to control anyone's life. And after being in therapy for 3 years, I had no clue how toxic this kind of behavior is. If you can control somebody's life, their choices, or even the way they make their own choices due to fear, religious indoctrination, gendered expectations, you can control anything. You can control anyone. This is how major organized religion works. They make you get in line. They make you conform. They make you want to be in your own cage. And it's so sad. I mean, I didn't even know what certain behavior looked like, that it was wrong. And people deserve better. Women deserve better. And when your rules as a parent differ on how much responsibility, freedom, and privacy based on your child's gender, this is sexist. Very sexist. I grew up in such a sexist, authoritarian environment. I don't know how I escaped at 31. Well, I really escaped a few weeks before my 31st birthday, but I was still, I was a very old 30. If you want to control your adult child's life, you are an unfit parent. There's a difference between being terrified your kid will make the wrong decisions and wishing you could help them. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about parents who want to run their kids' life. Helicopter, lawnmower parents. It's a lack of boundaries, a lack of informed consent. And just because your kid is okay with you doing it does not make it healthy, does not make it anything but enabling bad boundaries, bad routines. It's not okay. And it's definitely okay for people to say it's not okay. And what's really, really sad, my siblings still believe it's completely normal. They have been gaslit so much, so deeply. They believe that a father controlling every aspect of a 22-year-old's life, an adult life, is normal. They believe that if you live in someone's house, they have a right to make all the decisions for you. They have a right to make all the rules they want and discipline you when you're an adult. That is not being a parent. I don't know what that is, and I don't ever want to know. I never want to experience it again. You have to let go. Depending on what state you're in, preferably on the 18th birthday, you have to let go. You cannot drive or hold the wheel anymore. If your kid wants your input or for a few months to sit in the passenger side and give some advice or walk them through how to get their own life, fine. As long as the final say and the decision making is 100% the adults, I don't care. You cannot drive the car anymore. They're an adult. get to discipline your adult child anymore. You cannot set boundaries. You can set expectations, and then if they violate boundaries or expectations, you can have them move out. You can go no contact, limited contact, whatever. But you cannot discipline adults anymore. In society, adults are equal. Your child has equal rights and standing as you do. You have no authority, no right, and you cannot violate their autonomy. And yet, my family doesn't know the meaning of the word boundaries. They will make you feel bad for having boundaries, standards, expectations, and lines you do not cross. It never ceases to amaze me the terms I've learned to attach to behavior that would make psychiatrists cringe. My siblings think it's 100% normal and everyday parenting for your parents to take everything in your room from you because you're a human being who makes mistakes. They will take your door off your hinges 100 times in your childhood for weeks. They will take any chance of leaving the house from you if you argue once that week. You're not allowed to have a difference of opinion. You're not allowed to tell your parents you're being mean. You're not allowed to act your age. I developed OCD from growing up in a religious home that expected me to be perfect, and I was being punished for being a woman. They didn't say that's why they were punishing me, but I knew the reason why I couldn't leave the house as much as my brothers and have as much freedom, privacy, and access to education, health care, and transparency was because I wasn't a boy. That's the only difference between my brothers and myself. We had nothing else different. There is there is no other reason I was not allowed to leave the house when my brothers were allowed to leave the house. There is no way you can misunderstand. It's wrong. You don't get to parent somebody differently because they're a girl. They don't get less freedom and opportunity because they're a girl. You don't do that. That's sexist. You're punishing somebody for not being a boy. You can say it's something else all you want, but the only reason they have less freedom and ability to move around is because they're a girl. And they pitch it as, well, we want to keep our daughter safe. Then stop teaching your sons you get more accessibility, privacy, and opportunity because you're a boy. And trust me, if something had happened in our family, they would not have protected me because they view weakness in women as lesser than men. If I had told my parents that I was not safe, they would have found a reason to make it my fault because everything else they made my fault. That's who they are. They can't help being anything different. They don't know how. And that's not right. But that's the reality. You can't have any other reality. And if you've never grown up in an environment that controlled every aspect of your life, it was like Big Brother was watching you. That's not how relationships, family, parent and child relationships are supposed to work. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to prepare your child to be the driver of their own life. Not, I'll drive it until you're almost 30, and then once you finally, your brain develops no thanks to me keeping you back. You'll wrench the wheel away from me, and then I'll make myself the victim. Why did you do that? Which all my siblings did that. And it's sad. I don't have the relationship I should have with my parents because of how controlling, manipulative, and just infuriating they are. Controlling. I've never seen such control, fearful people. Unless I'm watching Asian parents in a sitcom. It is pathological, the kind of control I'm talking about. The kind of control I mean are they will make you feel like you have to stay halfway through your 20s because they're the moral and religious authority. Moving out of state, moving anywhere, leaving, doing your own thing is basically an act of rebellion against God because my father is God's mouthpiece and he says you need to wait 6 months. This is the level of abuse I'm talking about. You can dress it up as concern. You can dress it up as anything you like. It's malicious control. You can't make your child, your adult child, rely only on you. And they do not develop until 10 years after other kids develop. It's not right. It's not right. And my entire family gaslights me about it all the time. It's such a level of gaslighting. It's hard to put into words. Imagine you're 38 years old, and the only time you leave your house is when your father drives you shopping. You have your own car. You can go anywhere you want, but because he says you can't drive there because you're not ready, you don't drive there. That's the level of enmeshment I'm talking about. Where somebody could have gotten a car 5 years ago. Oh, you're not ready yet. We'll talk about it. And they finally got their freaking first car seconds before the 38th birthday. There's no self-identity. And my siblings can say, oh, we got a self-identity. You are a carbon copy of your parents. And if you don't have a spouse or kids, you are so closely connected to your parents. You might as well just crawl back up into your mother's womb because the level of enmeshment is beyond comparison. And I'm only laughing because I cannot believe I thought this was normal for so long. I mean, this is some Norman Bates shit. Imagine, I shop only picking up the errands my mother deems me capable of doing. This is the level of gaslighting. And I told her, why are you allowing your father at 38 to tell you what you can and can't do? Why? Why would you do that? It does not make sense. If you can drive to the library, you can drive to Walmart. Just because it's longer and more traffic, fine. Choose a time of day between 10 and 2 where there is little traffic. Or better yet, bite the bullet and learn how to sit in traffic. Do not waste half your life on, well, my daddy says I'm not ready. Of course you're not ready. If you're even listening to his advice like he's God, you shouldn't be on the highway anyway. You're 38 years old. Why are you asking for his permission? Why is he scheduling your appointments? Why is he taking you shopping when you have the capability? And if you don't have the capability, it's because he's driving you there. It's like complaining about I can't ski, but never practicing on how to be a skier because your daddy says you shouldn't ski. The gaslighting really bothers me. How can it not bother me? My sister told me earlier this morning, you lived in their house and at 24, you do as they say. No, that's not how being an adult is. Your parent doesn't get to make your choices. They don't get to make the decisions. They don't get to tell you what you can and can't do. That's what your 18th birthday is all about. They don't get a say. The only say they get is if you move out because you can't keep the rules. And as long as the rules are somewhat understandable, fine. Your parents can't tell you at 24 you can't leave the house to go to the theater. And if you have to hide who you really are from your parents, that is toxic behavior. And I'm talking about stuff that's legal. If you go to the theater and watch new releases, or you have a life that's very different from your parents, if you have to hide that from your parents, they are not safe to be around. Not emotionally, anyway. You don't have to be anything like your parents. You don't even have to like your parents. And if you want to criticize your parents because they did bad things, fine. If you can't because of your religion, choose a different religion. Because that religion is not a safe place. If authority figures cannot be criticized, held accountable, and dissed occasionally, you are in a dangerous situation. Nobody is above the law. Nobody is beyond critique. This is America. You can say whatever you want as long as it's not threatening somebody's safety. Or screaming fire. I'm pretty sure that's illegal. But, I mean, you can say whatever you want, even if it's unkind. Hopefully we've evolved as a species where we don't want to say those things. Even in 2026, that's not true. I should write a book on the enmeshment and out of the world things I thought were okay and normal as a child. My parents would not let me go. I had to leave because they would not let me go. They had a million excuses. Well, I'm not ready. You need more time. God's not leading me to support you. God doesn't exist. If you think he does and he talks to you, you need to be in therapy. Delusions are real. The only reason you shouldn't want a 24-year-old to move out, there is no reason. Because even if you love someone, you want what's best for them. And if what's best for them is getting their own life, you should be pushing them toward that. Helping them, educating them, being a resource. If you don't want your 24-year-old to leave home because they have a job and they have an apartment lined up, you should never have been a parent to begin with. And just because your parents say, God's not leading me to support you, doesn't mean it's not bullshit. Because a lot of the crap that came out of my parents' mouths is utter bullshit. You do not line up your education, your life around mythology and religion. People do, but you shouldn't. Smart people don't base how they live their life on a book that was written around the time the wheel was discovered and invented. I don't base my life on books that were written before we understood the circulatory system and how that worked. And I don't believe in books, and I don't pattern my life after books that were written after we understand human sexuality. Because if we pattern our life after a book like the Bible that views rape as she didn't scream loud enough, this is not an acceptable life manual. I don't take morality tips from a book that condones slavery, killing your son, and selling your daughter in a legal way into sex slavery. The Bible is not moral, and I found very few people who follow the Bible as being moral people I feel safe around. If you believe in the Bible, it's pretty hard not to support Trump. I'm actually shocked my family doesn't support Trump. If you want to have kids, fine. Don't expect everyone else to share in the same joy. And if you're going to be a parent, let your kids go when they're old enough to be a legal adult. Prepare them to be the best citizen and adult they can be. Stop telling your adult kids how to live their lives. It's not your life. If it's not your name, if it's not your body, if it's not your fucking life, stop telling your family, your children who are 18 plus, how to live their life. And if your support and your resources hinge on whether or not you agree, approve, or they consulted you, you're not a safe parent to be around. Love should be unconditional. Kids, adults, do not need your blessing for anything. And if you withhold your blessing on something that makes them happy and they can thrive, bloom, and be an adult, you need to sort out your priorities.